right.
Mem Daled, Mem Hey.
Mem Hey. Yeah.
All right, you're back on.
All right. Fine. Good morning. So we left off at Mem Hey. We actually got a couple lines down on Mem Hey Amud Aleph. We got to Boy Mine. We're actually pretty far down, maybe around 10 lines down or so from the top, maybe a little more. So Boy Mine Reish Lakish me Rabbi Yochanan. So we were discussing about, and we're going to continue to discuss the machlokes when it comes to muksa. Right, there's a general machlokes between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda generally holds a muksa. Rabbi Shimon does not, and there are certain cases where Rabbi Shimon does, but his opinion is still, there is still some unclarity as to Rabbi Shimon's shita, which will be, basically today's discussion. So, Ba'imine Reish Lakish me Rabbi Yochanan. Chitim shezaron bekarka ubeitzim shetachas tarnagolos. Mahu. If you have something which was, in addition, not necessarily going to be used for Shabbos, but it was actively, basically set aside that it wasn't going to be used for Shabbos, such as, let's say there was wheat that was planted. So obviously the wheat did not go ahead and take root yet, but it was placed into the ground, right? And it was placed into the ground, and therefore it shows actively that the owner has no intention to use it on Shabbos, right? Or an egg that he puts it underneath, right? A chicken or a rooster, right? To not to go ahead and have the glade, but rather to put it. Notice he shows that he has no intention of using it on Shabbos. So what would Rabbi Shimon say in that case? When Rabbi Shimon says there's no muksa on Shabbos, that's only if he actively doesn't show that he doesn't want to use it for Shabbos. However, he said muksa, or however, in the case such as these, when he actively shows that he's not using it, he does an action to prove that he doesn't want to use it on Shabbos, there is muksa. Or maybe it doesn't make a difference. He never holds of muksa. No, there is no muksa according to Rabbi Shimon, but only oil in a candle, b'shashu doilik, right? During the time of when it's lit. Why is that? Hoil v'huktzah mitzvah. So huktzah yisuro. Since there's two things going on here, right? The Havim in the Gemara will soon see not like that. So since there's two things going on, one is that the oil in the menorah is set aside for a mitzvah, right? It's set aside for this oil that he put into the lamp is going to be oil that should be used for the Shabbos candles, which is a mitzvah, and therefore for it to remain lit. And second of all, huktzah l'isura. Second of all, right, the one who goes ahead and removes the oil, he will be chai for extinguishing the fire. So therefore, since he has these two qualifications, such a case, it is a muksa according to Rabbi Shimon. But all of the cases, they don't have these qualities of huktzah l'mitzvaso and huktzah l'suroi, then it'll be okay. So Gemara says, I v'lesle huktzah l'mitzvaso. And Rabbi Shimon does not hold that if something is just merely designated, right, for a mitzvah, it would. Yes.
It's a muksa because you really liked it. Is that the reason why?
Well, on Shabbos, there is no purpose for it, right? The oil, right? So generally we have muksa. Muksa is set aside as basically a burial, right? In order that one does not do malacha, which is forbidden work on, that the Torah forbids one to do. So the question is, right? Why in this case do we say that the oil is forbidden? So generally, Rabbi Yehuda says it's aser, and Rabbi Shimon says it's not a problem. Just don't do the malacha, and the oil is no problem. Oil is not nothing. Just don't light the oil, right? So the question is, but if the oil is already set aside for the mitzvah of Shabbos candles, then maybe it's already designated for not using on Shabbos, and therefore it will be muksa. So Gemara says,
so if it goes out, you can relight it on Shabbat.
No, not at all. You cannot live. No, no one holds. That's a malacha.
That's a malacha. I see.
Right. So muksa is just in terms of moving it, or can you move it somewhere else, or maybe you have to leave it where it is.
You have to, in order to, according to Rav Shimon, and this is actually the way we hold, is that you have to consciously separate something out for not being able to be used for Shabbos. And in the case of the oil lamp, that oil was already consciously separated out in your mind.
Well, that was the question of the Gemara. That was the question of the Gemara that we started with today, right? If something was put aside as not being used for Shabbos, is that muksa or not? So now we said, no, the only time that Rabbi Shimon holds is if something muksa, if it's designated for a mitzvah, if it's designated for, and it also is an isser. So the Gemara says, so if something is only set aside for mitzvah, it's not muksa, even if it's not an isser, it's not muksa according to Rabbi Shimon. But Tanya, learn a brayso. We saw this brayso earlier. Person goes ahead and he has a sukkah that's properly set up. And he goes ahead and he hangs up, right, different sheets and colored, decorations, right, with hanging from the walls. The talabah goizim, efrasakin, shkedim, v'rimonim, right, and he goes ahead and he hangs up nuts and like peaches and almonds and pomegranates, clusters of grapes, or clusters of grains, different wines and oils, right, and flour. So he hangs up all right in canister. He hangs up all these things. Since these things are designated for a mitzvah, you cannot go ahead and use it until after Sukkot is over. If he goes ahead and makes a condition that, I'm only going to hang these for the first 4 days of Chol Moed, but I'm going to take them down in the middle of Chol Moed, it'll be mutter. But without a certain condition, then we see that it would be asr. So what do you see over here? There's no isser in using flour. It's not muksa. So why is flour in this case that it's hanging from the ceiling from the schach muksa as decorations? Because it was set aside as a mitzvah. So you see over here, according to this brisa, that something was just set aside for a mitzvah is asr. So the Gemara says, "Mimai Rabbi Shimon." Who says is even Rabbi Shimon? The Tani. So he says, no, it is the Tani Rabbi Chiya Bar Yosef coming to Rabbi Yechon. Ein naitlin eitzim in a sukkah. One cannot go ahead and take wood from a sukkah. Now this is a brisa was taught in Maseches Beitza, and it says over there that the way they learn ein naitlin eitzim in a sukkah b'yantav el min hasamachlot. Now obviously we're talking about removing wood on yantav. Now one on yantav is not allowed to do baina or seiser, so you can't. We're not talking about actively taking the walls down of sukkah because that would be a violation of being seiser, of taking something down, of deconstruction. So the question is, what is he talking about? There's just talking about over there. There's wood that was going to be used for the sukkah, but was left aside next to there. So you can only take the wood that was next to the building, next to the sukkah, and not the wood itself, right? A night the name is in the sukkah beyond the element of samachla. Rabbi Shimon matir, and over there Rabbi Shimon's in. He matir. He doesn't matir the wood on the side, right, to eat because that. Obviously, that would be okay. And he doesn't. So he's talking about a case of Rabbi Shimon would be matir if, let's say, it fell down and using those wood. That's how I learned the price over there. So if it did fall down, so really the Reish and the Sefer are not really talking about the same thing. The Reish is talking about the wood next to it as it's built, and Rabbi Shimon is talking about after it falls down, you're allowed to take the wood, even though it was designated for the mitzvah. Nevertheless, you're allowed to take it afterwards. The Shavin, but they both agree, Besukas Achag during the Chag, Besukas Achag B'Chag, the sukkah of an sukkahs, Shahi Asura, that it is asur. He's not but if he makes a condition, I'm only going to use it for certain, for the first 3 days, and use it afterwards, that'll be permitted to do as long as he makes that condition up front. But you see over here that Rabbi Shimon he's even the author of this case. So we see Rabbi Shimon holds that if something is just merely set aside as a mitzvah, it would be asur. So Gemara says, yes, you're right. Ka'ain shemen shebener kamarina. In other words, anything that's similar to oil of a candle. And hol of the huktzal mitzvah, so huktzal yisra. In other words, like this. Don't understand it's two different conditions. Rather, it's one condition. If something is set aside as a mitzvah, so as long as that mitzvah is going on, that's when it's asur. So in other words, in the case of the candle, in other words, the oil that was supposed to be put in the candle, so as long as the candle was supposed to be lit, therefore that oil is asur because that oil was really set aside to be performing a mitzvah during that zman. Right? Afterwards, it would be okay. So too, right? In the case of a sukkah, right? The wood was set aside. There was no condition, so it was built as a sukkah. So therefore, as long as the holiday of sukkah is going, that wood is basically designated for to use on sukkahs.
Rebbe, it's the same thing with anything that we designate an esrog. We can't eat it during Sukkot if we made a bracha on it. Anything we use for any holiday is muksa, right?
So something right, something was set correct. Something was set aside for a specific usage as right would not be able to be used for something else. Correct. So no, even Rabbi Shimon holds the muksa machmas mitzvaso.
But what about? Remember, we said the decoration on the sheet of a sukkah of fruits. Okay.
Right.
Now you want to do bracha in the sukkah. You can pick it out from the sukkah decoration and utilize it as bracha l'shevet besukkah.
You can't do it because those were used. So those were used for the mitzvah of sukkah. So since those were designated for the mitzvah of sukkah.
Okay, use it for decoration. Unless you did condition that when you put it.
Right, stipulation. You have to have in mind.
The condition will be okay. Right. Right. If there's no condition, then it would not be okay.
Okay.
So Itamar Nami. So it's also taught Amar Rabbi Chibar Rabba Amar Rabbi Yochanan saying in muksa Rabbi Shimon ela kein shemen shemenei. Right. The only type of muksa of Rabbi Shimon is like oil in a candle. V'shashu dailek. While it's lit. It goes hoel b'huktzal mitzvah. So since while it's lit, it's supposed to be lit, and therefore the oil is designated for use during those couple hours for that mitzvah. Therefore, it's also aser because it now remains aser because it was really supposed to be used for the mitzvah. And Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel ein muksa Rabbi Shimon ella geroigeros v'tzimukim bilvad. Says Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel that muksa according to Rabbi Shimon is only in a case of raisins and dried figs. Raisins and dried figs. Now the way they work is that first they're fruits, and then there's a process of drying them out, and then afterwards they become dried up figs and raisins. Right. Now, during this time when you're drying out, there is no usage because it's no longer fit for figs or grapes. And during that process, so he says only something that's put out on the roof, right? These will go ahead and put it on the roof to go ahead and dry out. So if it's put up there on the roof, then it's muksa because that's showing that A, it's not really fit for now, and B, he put it upstairs on the roof in order for it to go ahead and dry out. So Gemara says, "Ela gruga tzimukim bilvad umid achrini lo," and nothing else muksa. V'hatanim learned right. So hayoichel b'teinim v'haiser. So a guy was eating figs, and there was some left over. How long the gag? They brought him upstairs on the roof to go ahead and dry out. Last was then so not to make him dried figs. Or by Navim, he was eating grapes, v'haiser, and he had extra ones. How long the gag? Last was ben tzimukim. He went upstairs to put them to make him into raisins. So lo yoichel ad sheyizman. He can't go ahead and eat them until he basically designates them for permitted usage. Because in other words, he already set them aside as non-use. Because by the fact that he's drying them out, shows him he doesn't want enough for Shabbos because it takes a while for them to dry out. It doesn't take 1 hour, right? It takes days, weeks, right? So to all the apricots and all the other types of peaches and all types of fruits. So those if they're placed up to dry out, so the drying out period takes a long period of time, and therefore it proves that he does not want to use it on Shabbos. So therefore, that will be muksa according to Rabbi Shimon because he's actively showing that he does not want to use it for the Shabbos. So Mani, whose opinion is this? Ilim Rabbi Huda. If it's the opinion of Rabbi Huda, ma according to Rabbi Yehuda, you don't necessarily have to do something actively to make a muksa on Shabbos, right? Rabbi Yehuda is sort of opposite. He's sort of that if you're going to use it for Shabbos, you sort of have to, make known that you want to use it for Shabbos, but you don't have to actively make something not, usable for Shabbos. So certainly in this case, when he actively puts them on the roof, obviously we know, right, that he doesn't want to use it for Shabbos. So it can't be the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. So whose opinion is it? If it can't be Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi maybe must be the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. So the says no. The Yelam Rabbi Yehuda really maybe could be Rabbi Yehuda. But in other words, when he was eating it, right? He was eating him on Friday, right? Maybe that it teaches us. Since he was eating it, maybe he doesn't need to go ahead and designate the use for Shabbos because he was already eating them. So just because he was eating on Friday, so maybe he can continue eating them on Saturday if he changes his mind, even after they're drying up on the roof. So Kamash Blanc, came and the Gag, since he goes ahead and he puts them out on the roof to go ahead and dry out, and therefore we see that he basically, it's out of his mind that he's no longer no longer wants to go ahead and use it, and therefore this would be according to Rabbi Yehuda, this would be muksa, but not necessarily muksa according to Rabbi Shimon, because it could be the author of this brayso, so it was Rabbi Yehuda. Fine. Next question. Rabbi Shimon bar Rebbe me Rebbe. So Rabbi Shimon bar Rebbe asked a question from his father. Pitziule, turn the pages, right? Pitziule or Pitzile, Tamra l'Rebbe Shimon, Mahu. what about these types of dates according to Rabbi Shimon? Now, these types of dates, I guess they would not go ahead and ripen on the tree. Rather, they would go ahead and they would be gathered afterwards. They would be placed in a basket, and over there they would dry out in the baskets. So they didn't necessarily have to be put on the roof, but they were just, you harvest and you put in the basket, but they're not ready yet, right? They have to take a couple days for them to go ahead and ripen. So I'm seeing the title of the Rabbi Shimon Mahal. What's the case there? So in other words, over there, maybe according to Rabbi Shimon, we said in the case of Rabbi Shimon, things are drying out, they're not fit, but maybe that's only because they were placed out there actively to go ahead and dry out, meaning dry out, I don't want you right now. I want you when you dry it out. But over here, right, he didn't do anything actively. They're just sitting in a basket, and over time, they ripen, off the tree. So Amarle, ein moksa the Rabbi Shimon ella groigres v'tzichu b'vad. So we said earlier that there is no moksa according to Rabbi Shimon, but only in the cases of figs and raisins, right? Only something which is actively placed to dry out, that's when there is muksa, but other times there's no muksa. So Rebbe Leslie muksa. So now Rebbe doesn't hold a muksa, remember, because this question was asked of Rebbe, and that was the answer Rebbe gave. So obviously one answer we're going to give to deflect is maybe this is just Rebbe explaining the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, and this wasn't Rebbe himself. But let's see. Rebbe Leslie muksa, and Rebbe does not hold a muksa, but now we learn in the Mishnah, ein mashkin v'sheichtem midbarios. One cannot go ahead and give water to drink, and shecht animals that may be burials. Now, one usually gives animals to drink prior to their slaughter, is because that I guess it's easier to skin the animals to remove the hide off of the animal if there's a lot of water in the animal. So therefore, one is not allowed to go ahead and give extra to drink in order to go ahead and shecht it as some burials. Also, those on the one that go on the desert on Yantif, right? You can't go ahead and check these on Yantif, right? Because they're not ready. Now, mibarios are animals that go up, not wild animals, because these are all owned by the individual, but animals that go far out, right? Mibarios come from the word midbar, like they go out to the desert, right? About mashkin v'shechlim is a baitos, right? You can go ahead and check the ones that stay close to the house, right? The Tanya. We learn about it. So, what are these numbers? Barios kol she'etz v'pesach v'nichnas v'ravia, right? So what are?
I just want to Sorry, can I just clarify something?
Yeah.
We always have to, as Jews, have to give our animals food before ourselves and what have you. We're not talking about here giving the animal to drink. We're talking about dumping buckets and buckets of the water on the animal to soften its flesh.
Well, it says mashkin derech lahashkos, so now behema lifnei. No, they used to give them just a lot of water to drink before. So I guess there's a lot of water in their system, so therefore after the shechita, it's easier to go ahead and take off the hides.
Mm-hmm. So if the animal's thirsty, we're obliged to.
Right, but this means to
give it too much water so that it starts pouring out of its cells. Right. I got it. Straight.
Now, so what are animals like? What are these desert?
Is this a scientific fact?
What?
Is it a scientific fact that you give water in order to skin the animal?
Scientific fact.
Is it scientifically proven, or
this is how years of experience what
Babylonian fact.
Yeah, that's what they would do in order that was done. They found it to be much easier. Now, anyway. So if it goes out during Pesach during the spring and it doesn't come back until the first rain, so it's basically out the entire summer. They're on their own. So those animals are not fit on Yontif to go ahead and shech. A person can shech the animal, right, for the purposes of karbanos, right? So in this case, those animals are not really prepared for Yantif, and therefore those animals you can go ahead and shech on Yantif. However, basis what a basis kol she'etz v'rais chutz atchum v'bayis v'lenos b'soich atchum. Those animals that go out in the morning, they go out and graze outside the tchum, outside the property, and they come back, outside the town. They come back in the evenings. Those animals are the ones that are considered to be prepared on Yantif. And Rebbe Yomer elu ve'elu baitus. So Rebbe over here in this bride, so Rebbe he himself is in it. He's the one who's discussing. He says no. Both of those, even if it goes out in the spring and it doesn't come back until the first rain, that's considered to be baisos. Those still could be considered to be prepared animals that are home animals, right? The Elohim so what are mibarios? Kol sharois ve'ever v'lo nechas al yishuv leibos achavlis geshav. You go out all the way out to go, then they never come back. They go out on their own and never come back. So since these animals never come back, that's considered to be midbarios, and those are not considered to be prepared. Not during the summer, not during they never come back. So now the question, we'll see over here, according to Rebbe, so he appears to say that according to Rebbe, those are muksa. So those are muksa. We see Rebbe holds of muksa, not like Rabbi Shimon. So Gemara says, first we can say that no, maybe that's just like raisins. And now it's A, they're not around to shecht, and B, he sends them off in order to not be around for Yontif. So maybe that's considered to be actively getting rid of them. That's why it's not prepared, because just like you put up raisins and to dry out, so too he's putting animals out to pasture that will not return. So maybe that's an activity that makes it just like the dried figs and raisins. If we can say, or maybe just say when Rabbi Shimon Rebbe asked his father and Rebbe says this is what Rabbi Shimon holds, maybe he himself didn't hold like Rabbi Shimon. He was asked what does Rabbi Shimon hold, so he explained him the sheet of Rabbi Shimon. But then he himself doesn't hold. Or a third possible solution is the Divrem the Rabbanim Kamerlu. He was only telling the Rabbanim. He says Kamerlehu. He says Ladidi. According to me, Rabbi lastly Muksa. I don't hold like a Muksa at all because I hold like Rabbi Shimon. However, Ladidchub, according to you guys, right? When you guys have to differentiate between Midbarios and Baitos. Maybe admit to me that no, even if they leave at the Pesach and they come back for the first rain, it would be considered to be the ones that the Beitos, And Rabban Amalu, no, those are not considered Beitos. Those are considered to be Midbarios. Fine. So that was that case. Now, Omer Rabbi Rechan, Omer Rabbi Yechanan. Now we're going to discuss Rabbi Yechanan. Omru halacha Rabbi Shimon. Says Rabbi Yechanan, the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon when it comes to muksa. Umi Omar Rabbi Yechanan Hachi. Did Rabbi Yechanan say the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon and not like Rabbi Huda? Saba Kruya. There was a certain Saba, an older Kruya. And some says it was a Saruya. Rabbi Yechanan. So one of the elders asked from Rabbi Yechanan, Hina shel tarnagoles mahu. What is the halacha when it comes to a chicken coop, right? A chicken coop, kina shel tarnagoles mahu, a small little chicken coop. L'tatule b'Shabbos. What is halacha to move it on Shabbos? Amarlehu asar merlei, klum asuyi el tarnagolim. Now, what would Rabbi Shimon say to this? He was l'chayra. Rabbi Shimon would say it's not muksa, right? Because Rabbi Shimon really doesn't hold of muksa. So the answer is, well, it's only made for chickens, right? There's no use for chickens on Shabbos. And therefore, it's muksa. So it sounds like Rabbi Yechanan does not hold like Rabbi Shimon. Rather, Rabbi Yechanan holds like Rabbi Huda, a muksa. So Gemara says, no. Hacha v'yaskinan the east bay afrech meis. Over here, we're talking about when the chicken coop actually was a basis, right? Was a base of basically a dead chick. And since it was holding a dead chick, therefore it makes a muksa. So Gemara says, Hinich lamar. And even Rabbi Shimon would agree. So Hinich lamar meimar mishmei de Rava. Rabbi Shimon b'balei chayv shemeis shasurin. This works up according to the opinion of Bar Meimar in the name of Rava, who holds that Rabbi Shimon agrees in the case of a dead animal that dies, it's usher that is considered a muksa. However, according to Marbered Rav Yosef, who didn't say the name of Rava, that even Rabbi Shimon in such a case says there is no muksa. Michael, we're waiting to say here. So why did he not rule like Rabbi Shimon? If Rabbi Yechanan holds like Rabbi Shimon, why did he say it's muksa? Right? Rabbi Shimon will hold it's not muksa. So maybe there was an egg that was laid on Shabbos. Rav Nachman says, "Man, isle muksa, isle nola." In other words, who says Rabbi Shimon holds a nola? Didn't we learn, and therefore it'll be muksa? No. Didn't we learn? Rav Nachman says, whoever holds a muksa, isle nola. He also holds the concept of nola, that something was born on Shabbos. It's muksa because it wasn't prepared before Shabbos. And the lesle muksa, however, like Rabbi Shimon, if there is no muksa, lesle nola, then there is no concept of nola. So l'chor Rabbi Shimon would hold that in this case it should be muksa. So why did Rabbi Yechanan, if he holds like Rabbi Shimon, why did he rule like Rabbi Yehuda in this case? So the Gemara says, no, the East Bay Beitza Sefra, right? There is basically a chick in the egg. Since it's a chick in the egg, it's not fit for anything. It's not fit for human consumption, right? Because it's not a grown chicken. It's a chicken embryo, whatever, small chick. And it's not fit for a dog because a dog wouldn't eat it. And such an egg or a chick inside an egg. So since such a case, maybe Rabbi Shimon will hold in that case, and therefore it's not a stira to say that Rabbi Yechanan said muksa, because perhaps even Rabbi Shimon will hold like that case. Now, next case. He also Rav Yitzchak Rabbi Yosef. when Rabbi Yitzchak Rav Yosef came. So Rabbi Yitzchak made a statement. We're going to see the statement. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. So he quotes Rabbi Yochanan, who we've been discussing. Halacha Rabbi Yehuda. He says Halacha Rabbi Yehuda. Right? This is Rabbi Yochanan saying Halacha Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shuban Levi Amar Halacha Rabbi Shimon. And Rabbi Shuban Levi was one who said Halacha Rabbi Shimon. So Amar Rabbi Yosef. So Rabbi Yosef says, Hainu the Amar Rabbi Barachana Amar Rabbi Yochanan. That which we said, Rabbi Yochanan, right? Amar Halacha Rabbi Shimon. Now, earlier, remember when I said we were going to discuss Rabbi Yochanan, right? That was Amar Rabbi Barachana Rabbi Yochanan Halacha Rabbi Shimon. So now Rabbi Yosef is talking about that statement. That statement which you just read 15 lines earlier of Rabbi Barachana in the name of Rabbi Yochanan when it says the Halacha Rabbi Shimon. Amru le, right? So Amru, they said it. V'le lo svir le, but he did not hold of it. Rabbi Yochanan did not hold of it. In other words, it was only said to him, and he didn't hold of it. So Amru le, no. So he's saying that that what's it called? That Rabbi Yochanan does not. That really, there was only it was only Rabbi Shua ben Levi who held that halachas like Rabbi Shimon, but Rabbi Yochanan actually held like Rabbi Yehuda. So Amar le Abaye Rabbi Yosef, like Tizbar Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yehuda. What? And you only needed now to learn that Rabbi Yochanan learned like Rabbi Yehuda. In other words, you thought this whole time that he learned like Rabbi Shimon. I'll bring you another proof that really that Rabbi Yochanan held like Rabbi Yehuda, not like Rabbi Shimon. Right? So what was the case there? So Rabbi Asi Rabbi Abba min Chifa. One time, Rabbi Abba, Rabbi Asi, they're in the house of Rabbi Abba min Chifa. The Nafal Merinaisa al Galime, right? A menorah, right? A menorah fell on his cloak, on his garment. The Rabbi Asi v'lo tiltalo, and he didn't move it. So my time, why did not move it? And there was a menorah, right? Even after it was lit, on his cloak and or his jacket, whatever. And he didn't touch it. It was muksa. Why? So my time was recently. It's not because Rabbi Asi was a Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yehuda, and it must be the say muksa. It must be why? Because he held like his Rabbi Yochanan, who holds like Rabbi Yehuda.
But Rabbi, did it have the potential to catch on fire?
Oh, so it wasn't lit then. It was already after the fire was out.
Got it. Thank you.
Or itself was usher, the candle lights after the candlesticks after the candles.
No, but obviously, if it's going to potentially cause a fire, and we can't put out a fire on Shabbos, even though it's muksa.
That was something else, right? That'll be another. Okay. So over here, so he says it must be because it's muksa. So in other words, we see clearly that Rabbi Yochanan held like Rabbi Yehuda. So why would you think otherwise? Why would you ever think that Rabbi Yochanan held like Rabbi Yehuda? So he says, no, that's not necessarily only according to Rabbi Yehuda. Maybe that case it could even be Rabbi Shimon would hold the menorah's muksa. Why? So menorah kamarta. Why are you talking about a menorah? Menorah says shani. No, a menorah is different. Don't Rabbi Acha Rabbi Chanina. Am Rabbi Asi Hoira Reish Lakish B'Sidan menorah. So menorah hetilas hanetelas b'yado achas mutar l'halta. So no, it was taught over there by Reish Lakish and Sidan that a menorah which is held, a smaller menorah which can be held in one hand, that is mutar to move on Shabbos. A small portable menorah is not right. You can move it on Shabbos. But if it's basically a large menorah, they can only move with two hands. Right, that is usher on Shabbos. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Ano Ein Lanu Ella Bener. In other words, and that which Rabbi Yochanan was. So what do you say over here? Rabbi Yochanan Amar Ano Ein Lanu Ella Bener. Right, we only know about an air. Rabbi Shimon of Al Benaira Bein Nitla B'Yado Achas Bein Lebeshtei Yadav Asur L'Taltal. Right, so he says no. So in other words, that only Rabbi Yehuda would hold that a small air nose, but maybe over there that was a case of a larger menorah, and a larger menorah would be Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon would both agree that a large menorah on it would be muksa. In other words, and that over there was a larger menorah. So you can't bring a proof that case, over there, it must, obviously Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rabbi Yehuda, because there it could have been talking about a larger menorah, because a larger menorah is muksa, even according to Rabbi Shimon. And it was only a small ner was the machlokas. And now, what is the reason why a larger menorah is muksa even according to Rabbi Shimon? So that's a longer discussion for tomorrow, and we'll leave this off as a cliffhanger. So same time tomorrow.
Oh, the suspense.
The suspense.
Wow, suspense
is there. Right? We'll have to figure out why it is the menorah is. Why?
But we're holding by Rabbi Shimon that there is no muksa on Shabbat. Right?
His definition of muksa is very, very limited. Right. and typically the way the Gemara describes it is, he less lay muksa. He doesn't hold a muksa. There's no muksa at all, but his description of muksa is very small versus Rabbi Yehuda, which is much more encompassing. All right, we could.
So let me ask you.